radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening, Fade to Black. Today is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Let's do this, man. Yeah, I like saying that. Yeah, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And what a great week here on Fade to Black. Last night, Dr. Simeon Hein was with us talking about cold fusion. Great show. And tonight, it's Hugh Newman back with us. Göbekli and Karahan Tepe. Yeah, that's tonight. And other stuff. And we'll see where the conversation goes. Tomorrow night, Trey Hudson is back with us. We're going to talk about his research out at the Meadow and its high strangeness. And then tomorrow night, Dale Graff is with us. We're going to talk about the psi field and precog dreams. Yeah, all of that and much more. What a great week on Fade to Black. I love it. Every week, it's just got to be better than the last, and that's what we do around here. I do have two major events coming right up in about 10 days. I'm heading back to Peru with Brian Forrester for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, the Winter Solstice celebration. And then I am back for the Psi Games, August 1st through the 3rd, 2025 in Charlottesville, Virginia. The links for everything are below. There you go, heading back to Peru. You know, and tonight we're going to be talking about the megalithic all night. And when you go to Peru, that's also exactly what happens. You look at the construction everywhere you go and how it's layered, and you go down and you get to the megalithic. Yeah, that's my favorite part. There is nothing like the smell of a megalithic site, the stone. I'm going to ask Hugh about that. I'm telling you right now, for us researchers that get out there, and for those of you that have been to some of these sites, there's a smell. Yeah, and you never, ever forget it. And tonight we're going to be talking all about that, his recent trips to Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, and other sites around the world. He's an amazing author. He's a filmmaker, of course, and he's an explorer, and everything centralized around ancient mysteries and megalithic sites. And his links are below. And right now, I'm just going to bring him in. I'm too excited about this, Hugh. I'm just going to go straight to it and say, welcome, man. Let's just get to it. All the way live from Stonehenge. Hugh Newman, everybody. How you doing, Hugh?
I'm really good. How are you, Jimmy?
It's always good to see you, man. It's always good to see you. So do you wake up every day and just walk around Stonehenge? Is that how you start your day, with a cup of tea?
Yeah, cup of tea and Stonehenge every morning. Yeah, you could say that. That would be good if I could be bothered to go over there. But it's about 20 minute walk from here. But yeah, no, I'm there a lot. Let's just say that I'm there a lot more than any normal person should be. Yeah,
man. Does it ever get old? No pun intended. Really. No pun intended.
Right? No, good pun, but no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's something very odd about living near Stonehenge. I mean, near any megalithic site. I think we were talking earlier about Andrew Collins. He lived inside Avebury Stone Circle for many years. He knows the score. And I've got a friend, Jeffrey Wilson, lives right near Serpent Mound in America. And yes, weird stuff happens at houses that are located near these sites. I mean, we have a lot of weird stuff happening. Yeah, so
for sure. People ask me all the time. It's different but the same. I live next door to Skunk Works, right? It's a mile up the road, and if that ever gets old, it doesn't. I I will be out driving, either on my Harley or in the car, doing stuff. Then go, you know what? Let's swing by, let's swing by Skunk Works and see if anything's flying in the sky. It's right there. No, it'll for me, it'll never get old. It's just right there. It means so much to everybody, and it means so much to me, and that's why I live here, and that's why you live where you do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's got to be done. I mean, opportunities to live in these kind of unusual, kind of ancient places don't come around all the time. So you got to grab it and kind of go for that experience.
Now, before we get into Göbekli Tepe, before we get into that, and thank you for the smile, I just brought up the smell of a megalithic site. I'm not making stuff up, am I? Isn't that amazing? The smell.
You do get kind of like the special kind of scent, I guess, or sense as well. Both when you go to these places, I think it's like catching sights when there's no one else there. Makes it pretty interesting as well, because you kind of have sometimes when it's just been raining, or if it's been a kind of misty morning and sunny the day before, stuff like this, you kind of get these different scents, these different smells. Yeah, so yeah, you can get that for sure.
Let's get into Göbekli Tepe, and we'll start there and we'll work our way around. But what is it about Göbekli Tepe that makes it so special?
There's so many things. I mean, the scale of it is pretty impressive, and the date of it is insane, and the intricacy and the kind of stonework there. It's all in the wrong time. It shouldn't be that old. I mean, we're talking like the end of the last ice age. I mean, everyone knows about Göbekli Tepe, probably who's listening, but if you don't, I'd quickly mention it's 9,600 BC are the dates they've been getting for the first phase of construction there. There's multiple stone circles, and they're like oval, elliptical, actually very specific geometrical shapes, actually, which I've been looking at. And they're not just rough-hewn stones in a kind of circle. They're beautifully cut and created T-shaped pillars, often with multiple 3D relief carvings all over them. Some anthropomorphic with hands touching the navel, arms coming down the side, belts and things like this. And some of the bedrock they're kind of carved into at the base is carved flat from bedrock, so they're like shaping the bedrock quite amazingly. And there's not too much evidence of that in Britain at the stone circles or anything like that, to be honest with you. Very rarely, if there is. And so yeah, that's outrageous. And plus, you've got like only 5 of the stone circles are being excavated. They now expect there to be 23 at the site. Each nearly the size of Stonehenge. One of them is one in the LiDAR scan, the GPR scan they've done, the ground penetrating radar map from 2014, which is bigger than anything else there. And so and they've just cleared away a load of trees. Literally, when I was there in May, and I had some friends go over there in March, and they saw them clearing the trees off, all the olive trees, which have caused all this controversy recently, because the roots are damaging the stones and the ruins and everything. And so, to see it all clear for the first time, it's like, oh, you can clearly see this is all being buried. You can see the kind of rubble, with the kind of earth and grass growing over it, and the tree roots kind of being pulled out and things like this. And you can see how much there is to excavate there now. It's insane amount. And so I really hope they crack into it. I mean, because my God, I mean, if we think, what we've found so far is groundbreaking, it's history changing, but imagine that less than 5% has been uncovered, and just that alone is rewriting history. And so we have to kind of encourage them, pay them, whatever, bribe them, just get digging there, because this is it. This is like the kind of mother lode, and we need to kind of find out what's there.
When I first, and you remember this, but when I first started covering Göbekli Tepe back in 2012, 2013, most of our community hadn't heard about it yet. Most of the world, and they should have, but they hadn't. I think it was a deliberate ignoring, not quite a cover up, but it was too sensational for most archaeologists, anthropologists, historians to accept. It presented too much of rewriting history, and so I think it was just deliberately ignored. But that being said, since then, it has definitely caught on. Everybody in our community knows about Göbekli Tepe. But why do we still have this pushback? We have officially rewritten human history, how we look at it, and it proves that there's a lot more to discover out there. Why? What's it going to take to start rewriting books and rewriting history?
It's a slow process for sure. I mean, this is the nature of it, I think, because you think about the institutional kind of history that's kind of been taught about the origins of civilization, hunter gatherers, and how it's all set in stone. It's in the books, in the curriculums of universities and things like this. So it ain't going to change soon, I don't think. And I think it's just, that's why I kind of like to be writing myself. People like Andrew Collins, Graham Hancock, whoever, they're actually kind of telling it how it is now, and I think that's really important. They don't have any kind of institutions that are guiding them or controlling them or anything like that. We can just do what we want, basically. And I think that's a really important aspect of getting this information out there, and that's why we're very on it. Myself, Andrew, JJ Ainsworth as well, which is focused on like presenting the latest research. We go there 2 or 3 times a year just to see what's happening. I mean, obviously we've written about it. I've got a book coming out with JJ next year or later this year, hopefully. And it's just insane. But I think it's one example of how slow it is to change things is the study of archaeoastronomy itself, which was pretty much discovered 100 years ago or more. People like going back to the first antiquarians, Stonehenge and things like this. And that took a while. It took till Alexander Thom was cracking the Stone Age code in Britain in the 60s, early 70s. And then he was an academic and he got ridiculed. It took 30 years for archaeoastronomy to be accepted as a possible science. And even today, it's not addressed properly. It's still not addressed accurately. At Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, they ignore archaeoastronomical discoveries and symbolism and clear alignments, some that we've discovered ourselves, and just say they don't exist. They literally write it out of the history books. They write it out of Wikipedia. They don't want anything to do with archaeoastronomy or alignments. And so I think that if you look at that as a kind of like microcosm of the macrocosm of the problem of rewriting history, is kind of where we're at. And so it's going to be the same with the rewriting of the history. And even today, it's like I keep up with all what the archaeologists are putting out, all the anthropologists, the people who are working at the site. They take a long time to get their information out. When it comes out, it's quite brilliant, most of it, but they don't include the archaeoastronomy in that, and it feels like they're trying to make it kind of a bit too mundane, when what we're looking at is not mundane. This is like outrageous. It shouldn't be here. It shouldn't exist at this time. It's so advanced.
It's a non-trivial subject. It's a huge subject, if not the biggest.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
There, when you look at so many ancient megalithic sites around the world, you can more or less, right? They always want to put a religious bent on it or something, but you can more or less look at an a cosmological tie-in with almost every site. And that goes, look at Karahan, right, in Armenia. If that isn't one of the most classic examples of that, those are alignment stones to look at the stars, right? And nobody wants to talk about that. Look at the Stargate. Puma Punku is a great example, and Tiwanaku, and of course Gobekli Tepe, and even Stonehenge, with its obvious astronomy that's tied to it. It's still pseudoscience, and it's almost cultish.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think the fact is like you say, that all these sites, famous sites, most of the famous sites across the planet now, megaliths, they are all of them pretty much are associated with astronomy. They have alignments, they have symbolism, they have something. And so why do then, according to the academics, that Karahan Tepe and Göbekli don't have any at all? It's like what? How can this be? You know, where did that all miss it? Now I've been working on evidence before the time of Göbekli Tepe now, finding astronomical alignments and the study of specific turnings of the year, going back into Paleolithic times now. It's not just about what's called the pre-pottery Neolithic, which is in that area of Turkey is the era of Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe. It's early Neolithic basically. And so why doesn't it exist there when clearly the symbolism, you can see the symbolism on the stones as well? So I don't know if it's a political thing or it's a religious thing. They've got to be careful with how they tread, because it's a kind of hot area, you know, that's a part of the Middle East. It's almost going into the Middle East. It's near the border of Syria and things like this. So I think there's things like that are considered when promoting these sites. But for a long time though, it's been referred to as the world's first temple by Klaus Schmidt, the original archaeologist, and he couldn't find any specific alignments. He didn't really big up the astronomy thing either, and the current archaeologists certainly don't. But archaeoastronomers have looked at that and found stuff. I mean, we've found stuff ourselves just by chance, by being there at the right place at the right time. And so I think it needs to be addressed, because if they're not careful, the alignments are going to be built over. They're building roofs over everything now. Like there's a roof at Göbekli Tepe. They've just started one at Karahan Tepe, which is going up like pretty much now. And so that could block these kind of things that, you know, people should be studying, but they're kind of suppressing it before you can even get in there and study it. They don't even let you in to have a look, you know, right inside the middle of the circle and things like this. So it's frustrating. And I think, you know, worldwide, archaeoastronomy, astronomically aligned sites, it's a thing, and it kind of should be addressed at these kind of sites too.
How safe is it to visit?
Yeah, Turkey's fine. Yeah, that part of Turkey's fine at this current time. It's all good. I mean, we've never had any issues there at all. Actually, never. I mean, it's perfectly fine, perfectly safe. Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
that's.
it's so close to the border with Syria and everything that has been happening there, you know, in the last 15 years. That was always something that people had brought up. And I thought, well, no, it's in Turkey, you know, it's not in Syria. But so anybody it's a totally safe place to go to, right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, we go there regularly. We take groups out there. I mean, you know, JJ brings the kids out there. It's fine. I mean, really, it is fine. I mean, no one really messes with Turkey. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much,
Yeah.
I would say that's a fair assessment. Before we get into your recent discoveries, I want to bring up 2 points, and I'm not bagging on anybody. I never do. It's not my nature. But Zahi Hawass was just on Joe Rogan. And Joe pressed, I'm going to give Joe credit. All right. Joe pressed Zahi. And, but specifically when it came to anything older than 3000 BC, once again, Zahi's just dismissing it. It doesn't matter. Everything is in Giza. You know, everything that matters is in Giza, and that's 3000 BC. There's nothing else to talk about here. And I don't know if that is specific on Zahi, or is that still systematic throughout academia, where they still want to consider, you know, Mesopotamia and 3000 BC and Giza as the start of everything. Is that still the environment out there, or is that just like a Hawass attitude?
In Egypt, for sure. I mean, I think it's a general, you know, the official stance, Zahi Hawass, the government, tourism and everything. That's the official stance, that civilization beginning, you know, the first phase of Egypt, Sumeria, and places like this. Because it hasn't really been 100% proven who the Göbekli Tepe people were anyway. So it's put forward even by the archaeologists now that they're hunter-gatherers, and I've now come round to that. I think they were hunter-gatherers, but hunter-gatherers are underestimated big time. And we'll talk a bit about that, hopefully today. And because some of the stuff they were doing thousands of years before that is pretty impressive. And not many people really know about it. But yeah, generally though, I mean, I listened to the Zahi Hawass conversation on Joe Rogan. I thought it was actually quite funny, quite interesting. The cigar thing really got me. I mean,
I know I was
that Cuban just like going for it, for the first half hour. I thought that was Joe Rogan having a blunt or joint behind him, but it wasn't. It was him with a giant cigar. I thought that was quite funny. But he made some good points, but I don't know what it is. I think he just forgot some stuff. Maybe he just didn't remember a few details, and that kind of caught him out. I think things are so people really, get meticulous about what people say on Joe Rogan. What people say.
All you have to do. This is my. He'll never listen to me, but I'll say this to anybody out there, and especially people that are getting into research. And if you ever are a guest on any of these shows, just be honest. Then you don't have to think about what you're saying. Just be honest. I think that Zahi tripped himself up many times in that interview. And when you watch the whole thing, Zahi lost himself a few times and contradicted himself. And that's not a good look.
No, I mean, it's almost like you can imagine, the amount of stuff he has to take on as well and discuss.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not bagging on him. You can get through anything like that by just being honest. That's all. Just be straight up. I mean, Göbekli Tepe exists. Say it. That's all.
It's almost like he denies it, doesn't he? He doesn't want to admit it. He's like he doesn't know what it is or something. I think the sound of it's a bit weird to him, maybe as well, the way he pronounced it. But I mean, he was asked about the SARS scans, stuff under the pyramids, under Khafre's pyramid, and he kind of dismissed it because other experts who didn't like the stuff, claimed it wasn't real. But I think that was a bit. I personally, it was a bit silly because I think there's more research is going to come to light, more data.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we? Sure. I didn't expect to go there.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it briefly because everybody is talking about it right now. What do you make of it?
I think it's compelling, really compelling. I mean, I was fortunate. I managed to get underneath the Giza plateau recently with Andrew Collins. We went to the cave of the Tomb of the Birds, NC2 cave that leads to the area of Khafre's pyramid, and it's probably the entrance into this discovery that has actually been made. So we made a few videos about it when it all kicked off in March, and we've talked with Armando May and Filippo Biondi as well, and they're going to be coming to England to our conference, and they've got a lot up their sleeve, basically. I think. And a few other people who have kind of been doing research backing them up, that's going to come to light as well. I think people are going to be blown away, and so I think there's more to it than meets the eye. And I don't know if everything they've discovered is correct. The big tubes going down with the steps and everything like this, the massive thing. I don't know if that's all 100% correct, but there's something going on there. There's no way you would come up with all that repeated data sets, over and over again to check it, from every different possible angle. So I think something's going to come out. But the problem is that they've literally closed Khafre's pyramid to the public. Usually it's open. You can buy tickets to go into Khafre's pyramid. And just recently they closed it indefinitely. So hopefully that's going to change. And so I think they're quite worried about people going in there and trying to get under the ground there or something. Because just around the back of the pyramid, and actually there's a thing called Belzoni's chamber as well. And there's a couple of detected areas under the ground they found on the corners, two of the corners. So there are ways in underneath that area, and you can literally see them if you go and walk around the pyramid. And so I can imagine they're freaking out and worried people are going to go in there and get lost and this, that, and the other. But I think they need to set the bull by the horns and actually go there, do some GPR, do some ground penetrating radar themselves. I'm talking about the Egyptian authorities, just to prove it one way or another, because otherwise it's all going to be hearsay until someone gets in there and does it officially, or someone accidentally finds a route in there, an independent researcher or something like that. So I think people have got to keep an open mind with this. Don't dismiss it, and let's just see where the research goes with it, because I think
I want it to be something. We all do. We all do. What do you know about the SARS technology? How deep can it really go?
My limited understanding of it, I'm not a scientist in that respect, but my limited understanding of it is that they're using satellite data, but it doesn't go that deep. But what they do is I think they combine it with some acoustic or sounding technology, so they can actually send using signals going underneath the Giza plateau to get to an extra depth. And then that's basic stuff. That's basically a lot of GPR and LiDAR. I think it's similar in some ways. And so I think that's it. They combine 2 or 3 different technologies into one, and they've kind of patented it. That's the thing. And so they're not keen. They're not keen on giving it away to like other kind of scientists. They want to kind of, manage it themselves because they've worked it out themselves very brilliantly. And so, honestly, the technical side of it, speak to Filippo Biondi. He's the guy. Right. And,
right.
He's out there. You can see his videos. He speaks fairly good English. You can actually see his stuff. He's speaking at some conferences this summer as well, all over in America and other places, and in England at our conference. And quite a lot of scientists are now going, oh, actually that should work. And they've tested lots of other places they haven't really published about that it works at. They did the Osiris shaft, got results perfectly with that. But I think they've done a lot more, but just not mentioned it because they want to kind of pace the kind of data sets coming out slowly just to kind of build their case. So, I think it's compelling. And if it is for real, if it is 100% for real, this is mind blowing, because imagine what you can do with that, in other parts of the world when you got your places.
It would certainly change. It would certainly change things too. We would really have to look at one of the things, and then we'll get. You're here to talk about Göbekli Tepe tonight with me. Is that the whole idea of nomadic tribes, wearing animal skins at 3000 BC, 3500 BC, wandering out of the desert, and then a couple of weeks later leveling off a limestone hilltop and building pyramids, that doesn't add up. There's just something funky with that. Way too advanced engineering wise, no matter how much credit you want to give to the civilizations back then. But now you want to go 2 kilometers deep. Well, that really changes things, doesn't it? And it would definitely alter the dating. That wasn't anything that was done at 3000 BC. It was something that was built in mass, in large scale, over great lengths of time, right?
Yeah, you look at the earliest stuff on the Giza plateau. They're basically cutting into bedrock. They're shaping things like you have even the kind of underground chambers, like subterranean chambers. This is all carved out of bedrock. So they were working the bedrock like they were at Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe in a similar manner. And I'm pretty convinced before any pyramids were put up there was stuff going on all over the Giza plateau going way back. Look at the Sphinx. Look at all the dating associated with that.
Right.
And so, I think that they realized after a while, after probably thousands of years of working the bedrock and building underground, there's so much underground there as well that hasn't really been addressed. Stuff that is well known, like the Osiris shaft, the subterranean chambers, things like this already. But I think there has to be a connection between Göbekli Tepe people and this people. But there's traditions that link them together. There's Andrew and even Klaus Schmidt found evidence of the Helwan Point, which is something found in Egypt that goes back 10 or 11,000 years, found right near Göbekli Tepe at a site called Yemenahale, where Urfa Man was found in Urfa. And so you have these direct connections. So I think there could be very ancient working the bedrock on the Giza plateau just by realizing they were doing that in southeast Turkey and a few other places at a very early day, even in Israel as well, Jordan and places like the Tufians were doing it, who were hunter-gatherers, but they were also settling. They were also very advanced. They were using geometry. They were starting to, grow food, things like this. And so, there are connections, and I think that could, it may take a long time to prove, but they're going to find artifacts. They're going to find kind of evidence that pushes the dates back underneath the Giza plateau, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have spent enough time, not as much time as you, but I've spent enough time at Giza to know, to see, it's my own eyes. When you go around Giza, away from the pyramids, you can see what was going on below the pyramids. And some of that stuff is really, really, really old. It doesn't look fresh. If you know what I mean. There's something. And then so when you back away from the Great Pyramid, and then you imagine the subterranean chamber and everything that is going on underneath the plateau, I think there's a lot there. I really do. I feel, in my opinion, it looks like I'm pushing stuff back tens of thousands of years here, everybody, in my own opinion, that the pyramids were built on top of an existing site. That's it. I don't, the stuff that's around it is just too old. It looks old, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at the kind of mortuary temples, which are next to the kind of pyramids. They're massive, 100-ton blocks, heavily weathered, more so than the Sphinx.
Right.
It makes you wonder. Doesn't it? Even like the Sphinx temple and the Valley temple down at the bottom there, near the Sphinx, they're like heavily weathered, and they're cased in like later, what it appears, granite. And so you can see that. I mean, it's not like you can't see it. That's the thing. It's there.
It's right there. It's right there. and it's funny. You bring up a really good point. When you're down in the Sphinx temple, and then you look beyond that, those blocks. I mean, we talk about other stuff, at Giza. Look at the size of those things, man. I mean, they're 50 feet wide, 6-7 feet thick. Ginormous, but they're rounded and weathered.
Because even at the Khafre's pyramid, where all the underground stuff is supposedly there's like what's happened there, which is because it's on a slope. So basically, the front of it towards the east, going down towards the Sphinx, that side of it, they've had to build up, and they built up and they put massive slabs to kind of build it up, like levels, like layers, to kind of flatten it out. Then behind the pyramid, a quarter of the pyramid in the corner there is actually bedrock shaped to look like a pyramid, and then they put blocks on top of it to continue building it because of the slope, and there's a cliff behind it. Bizarre. And so, but the blocks at the front on the east side, some of them are 180 tons.
I took so many pictures of those. I was so blown away. And, Khafre gets ignored, and I still don't understand why. But nobody really gets back there. Security won't let you, but you can if you do the right things. But there is so much going on back there, and including, Menkaure. Yeah. Menkaure is fascinating, man. And everything that's built around Menkaure, if you just open your eyes and take a look around, it's really weird how it's ignored. All the attention is on the Great Pyramid. I understand why, I do, but there's a lot going on at Giza, man. There is a whole lot there for sure.
No, I agree.
Have you seen the new movie? I'm going to interrupt. Yeah. The Fountain of Youth.
No.
Okay, watch it. Okay. Spoiler alert. Okay, spoiler alert. The Fountain of Youth is at Giza. Okay. Oh. All right. So, okay. So, spoiler alert. And then this is what they do, and it's really cool for people like you and I. That the Fountain of Youth is under the Great Pyramid, right? So that's what they say, and so they're heading to Giza. I'm like, oh, all right, let's go. This is cool. So the movie came out about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Okay, so listen. So they're driving. They got their convoy. They're driving up to Giza, and they pull up to the wrong pyramid. They pull up to Menkaure.
Oh.
Yeah. So the whole movie is built around the Great Pyramid, and then they pull up to Menkaure. And in a weird way, I was happy about that. So the movie, now I'm not going to give anything else away, but yeah, they go under Menkaure. And this movie was made way before the SARS. This
Okay.
movie's been in production for years, but what a weird coincidence, right? So check it out. Check out the Fountain of Youth. Worth it.
For sure.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Okay, so Göbekli Tepe, as we're talking about the ages of things, and 22, 23, 24, 25 enclosures, we've got 5 or 6 that, and so forth. Are the enclosures that are yet to be discovered, are those newer? I should say dug out. Are those newer dating, or are those older? I'm so confused when it comes to Göbekli Tepe. It seems like what has been discovered should be the newest, and the oldest is underneath it.
Yeah, I think it's going to turn out to be definitely the same age, possibly older. I mean, I think they found some dating already from the kind of northwest area, because the southeast area is the main area of excavation. They've done a little bit in the northwest, and they found dates that go back to the very earliest dates, to 9,600, 9,800 BC. Before Klaus Schmidt died, he admitted that they could find dates going into the Natufian era, 14,000 years old. He was suggesting. So who knows? I mean, literally, we don't know until they get down there and they get something to date. So we're kind of clutching at straws here. But earlier sites have been found in the area. There's a site called Çakmak Tepe. It's only like 10 miles away, well, 15 miles away maybe. It's near another site called Sayburç and Mendik Tepe as well. And that is at least 500 years earlier than Göbekli Tepe. No big T pillars there, but they were shaping the bedrock into these geometries, and there are some kind of largish stones there as well. But there's much earlier sites also up near the Tigris River as well, which go back 1,000 years before Göbekli Tepe. And so Göbekli Tepe wasn't the first, but nothing quite like it had come before it. It's just this outrageous, profound site. But again, we must remember that they're excavating multiple sites, and some of them are bigger than Göbekli Tepe. Some of them haven't even been started excavation yet. There's a site called Ayan Lahoyak, which is bigger than Göbekli Tepe. The Karahan Tepe is turning out to be bigger than Göbekli Tepe, and things like this. And so, Göbekli Tepe might end up just being one of many sites like that. And this is why it's so important, because if one site and only 5% of it is causing this much excitement, imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years' time when a whole load more gets excavated.
What do you, let's just stay with Göbekli Tepe for the moment. When you look at the 3D relief, and of course the T-pillars themselves and the quarrying, if we look at the orthodox dating of the ages, and the Bronze Age being between 3000 BC and 2500 BC, right? Okay. What kind of tools are doing the carving, or would you suggest that they had copper chisels? Hugh? Oh, Hugh froze. Hugh, you're frozen. He doesn't look frozen, but he is. Hugh, you are frozen. If you can hear me, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, let me go over to, we have a private chat. Let's see. Oh, no, just lost Hugh. What are you going to do? I asked the most key, crucial question of the night. Hugh is frozen. Hugh, come back to me. Hugh, come back to me. And the reason why I bring that up, when as we wait for Hugh to come back, and I'll go ahead and watch the comments. What do you guys think of that? Do you think it's possible that there were copper chisels or something else used? I don't see stone tools or chicken bones or whatever, carving out. Okay, we got Hugh back. Okay, Hugh, are you there?
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so
Sorry about
did you
that.
get my question?
No, I missed it. I got about half of it. Sorry, my internet just cut out for a moment. It does that occasionally in these rural
That's
areas.
fine. That's fine. The question is this: when you look at the coring and the precise nature of the T pillars, and of course the 3D relief carvings that are there, is it possible that they could have had copper chisels 7,000 years before the Bronze Age?
There was copper found at some sites in the region at a place called Tiwanaku, which dates to 8,500 BC, which is further north near the town or city of Diyarbakir, near the Tigris River. There's also now evidence of heated copper, which is interesting, going back to almost those dates. I know it's brand new research. I haven't seen all the data on it yet, but I don't think so. I don't think they were using copper for that purpose. I think they were kind of shaping it for various things, but I think they were using different types of stone, like basalt. They were using flint and obsidian for the fine stone work, because the type of limestone they were carving is carvable, but you have to be a real artisan to do it. And this is where you have to question how they developed these techniques and where that all came from, because it's almost like, as a lot of people have said, and you've said it before, it's like they come out of nowhere with this outrageous high technology, quality stonework, which, where on earth did that come from? Where's the kind of build up to that? Where's the evidence in the stonework of that? So that's what's so compelling. But I think but there is now evidence of innovations that really shouldn't have been around then. And I think the use of metal or copper might turn out to be one of them.
Okay, so let's stay here. To do what they have done, which includes Urfaman. Urfaman is something that still blows my mind, but all of this evidence is stacking up. Urfaman is part of that, and now Karahan Tepe. And I was looking at the puzzle pieces of the T pillars that are being glued together at Karahan Tepe. That's just mind blowing. And I want to circle back to that. I want you to address that because you just got back from there. I don't think they invented quarrying. I don't believe that they invented shaping stone at this period in history. I think they were taught. That's my take. Am I far off of the mark? Do you think another civilization taught them how to do these things?
It feels like it, yeah. I mean, this is what this is what a few people have been saying. I'm kind of intrigued by that, because but then who were they? Where's the evidence of them as well? This is where the big questions come in. I think that's what Graham Hancock has kind of been pointing out in his Ancient Apocalypse and some previous books of his, where there seems to be a completely lost civilization that still hasn't been really found. The dreaded A word, Atlantis, is part of that, part of that whole mythos. But you look at I find that you got to look at these old texts, these old myths, these old legends of the area, and you find stories of, you've talked about this before, the Watchers, the Anunnaki, the kind of biblical kind of people who were like kind of highly advanced people back at the time, and the Watchers were described as such, having these skills, these techniques. They could work with stone. They were astronomers. They were into medicine. They could work with metal. They could navigate, survey, and things like this, and even produce metal and weapons and things and similar things like this. So we have to question, were they talking about that era back then? And just the evidence has kind of just been wiped from the face of the earth, in the Great Flood or whatever. But if you go back, if you carefully pace back and look at the excavations that have taken place in the region, even going into Europe as well, and further south into the Middle East, and even up into the Russian steppes and things like this, you can find 3D relief carvings in some Paleolithic and Mesolithic caves. Literally kind of artifacts that are found. You've got like 3D reliefs of like the fish in a cave in France, for instance, which actually weirdly is related to the winter solstice there. And so you can find little pieces of evidence that kind of back this up, but to then suddenly come out with Göbekli Tepe, it's like, oh, and the fact that the style spec of Göbekli Tepe was then used almost identically for 1500 years is like, God, it's almost like a genius just turned up and said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm a genius. I can do this. Here you go. Have some of that. And I think it feels like that. It feels like there was like a group of genius level people who either took way too many mushrooms and just came up with the idea in one fell swoop, or it's a genuine like kind of coming together of different cultures and like the sort of admixture, kind of like just this inspiration just kicked off when the weather improved, the ice age was over, cataclysms had stopped. They needed to kind of record, I believe, they needed to put everything they knew into one place or several places in the same region. And this was where they chose. Because I don't think these sites, it's just artwork. There's knowledge in there. There's like kind of information. There's a history. There's memory of their cultures, of their teachings. There's astronomy. There's everything else in there that you can think of. And I think this is what it's all about. And we just haven't quite decoded it yet. We're still trying to work it out because we've got scraps at the moment. 5% of Göbekli Tepe, for God's sake. We're working on scraps. We need the rest of it excavated to kind of decode the whole thing. And I think this is a really important aspect that we need to kind of, address this, because we're not going to know really who built it unless more of it's excavated. It's as simple as that. We don't have enough data, so we need more research. But I agree with you in many ways, but they've got to excavate more just to find out, exactly who these people were. We'll probably be able to work it out. There could be some crazy stuff still buried there. We just don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been there yet, but I'm on my way, and I cannot wait. Yeah, all these different sites that I go to, I'll be in Peru, in 10 days. I cannot wait
Nice.
to get back there. Yeah, so amazing. That I've done so much research and interviewed people like yourself over the years, and then I finally get to go to these sites, and then I have a different perspective on it. I know that's going to happen with me at Göbekli Tepe. And one of the things that has changed over the years is the cosmology part of Göbekli Tepe, because when I first started talking to researchers about it, they were struggling with an astronomical component to Göbekli Tepe. Now that has changed. How are you settling down with that? And also, one last question that I want you to address with this: are the alignments changing in the different enclosures? Are the degrees, are they moving? Because if you're building it over time and you're aligning it to something, that position would change, wouldn't it?
If it stars, yeah, for sure. If it stars, I think this is what Andrew Collins proposed with his the slightly different orientations of the enclosures. He believes they were looking to the northern part of the sky through the porthole stones, and they would see Deneb, the brightest star of Cygnus, setting and rising at various parts of the sky, and it slightly changes over time. Whereas there's also another researcher, an archaeoastronomer from a university, I think in Milan or somewhere in Italy, Guido Magli, and he states that they were actually looking to the south towards Sirius, possibly Orion and Taurus, Pleiades, and things like this. However, the best solution for this is to incorporate it all. And this is what J.J. Ainsworth has done, who's like my partner, my co-author, my future co-author. And she has worked out that all of this can be incorporated if you're looking at something called the Golden Gate of the ecliptic, where it's the movement of, the kind of the arch of the sky going from the north to the south, where the sun and the moon and other things and planets move through. And she found the symbolism matches that. And so they're both right. Magley's right, Collins is right, JJ's right. And I think that's where it's all at. And even Martin Sweatman has now done a whole calendrical kind of analysis and zodiac analysis as well. And it's all of it kind of is starting to fit together. And remember, only 5% of the site is being worked on to uncover all this. So imagine what else is going to be found to back up all these theories. Now, I think I found a solstice alignment in Göbekli Tepe in enclosure D, where this new discovery of this specific stone placed in a wall in between these T-pillars appears to mark the winter solstice alignment. The reason that drew my attention, obviously, is because at Karahan Tepe, mine and JJ's discovery of the very clear winter solstice alignment phenomena there. And so I'm starting now to look not just at the stars, but at solstices. That's the kind of key. And you're going to be in Peru for the Inti Raymi, which is their winter solstice, by the way. And so that is kind of cool. And so I'm getting more and more fascinated and trying to understand the solstice. And I think this is what is going to be found more and more at these sites, especially because we've now possibly found it at Göbekli Tepe, definitely found it at Karahan Tepe. But there's also another enclosure at Göbekli Tepe called Enclosure F. Now, this is basically back towards the west. It's a later enclosure. It's a square, kind of weirdly shaped enclosure. It's not got a regular kind of oval or elliptical shape. But the alignment of that is clearly to the summer solstice sunrise or the winter solstice sunset, which is the same orientation. And that is intriguing. That's something that Andrew spotted first many years ago. So now the enclosure D alignment is really intriguing now. And there's other people who've been doing research claiming that they were studying the moon, the different planets, everything else. And I think this is what frustrates me about why isn't this addressed more academically as well? Why isn't this kind of looked at rather than just claiming they all had roofs, so therefore they didn't look at the sky, which is a kind of backwards way of thinking. But we must remember that these aren't the earliest solstice alignments. There were ones even older than this. Now, these are the oldest ones built with a megalithic site, but there are other elements of this going further back and a contemporary with this. We have a summer solstice sunset alignment at Jericho in the Levant in Palestine, basically. And this dates back to 8,500 BC, a little bit later than Göbekli and Karahan Tepe. We also have Atlit Yam, which is a site that's actually under the water off the coast of Israel, which dates back to about 7,500 BC. That's aligned to the summer solstice sunrise. And so we're finding contemporary sites with similar alignments and built within their settlements. I think that's the key. They're not going out to a random spot in a field and placing a couple of stones. They're building it into their sites, their kind of main temple sites, possibly where they ended up living as well. And so I think that's really important. And I think that addresses many questions as to were they studying the sun or the moon and the stars? And the answer clearly is yes.
Well, and if you look at, and I noticed this very, very early on with Göbekli Tepe, and I don't know why it's not addressed, or maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand. But when I look at the alignment of any of the central pillars, not the outside, but the central pillars, they're all just a little bit off. They're not going directly north. They're not north-south. They are all to the left of 12 o'clock. You know what I mean? And some more than others, but that's got to mean something. And I just don't hear people talk about this enough, unless it's just not as important as I think it is. But I see it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is the thing. This is where JJ's research, Andrew's research, Magley's research, it all fits, and it has to be at those orientations for that all to work. And so so it does make sense, if you're looking at it from this astronomical perspective, because the archaeologists don't know why. I mean, one of the things that's been researched there, I've been working on this with Howard Crowhurst. He's a geometer and astronomer from France. He's looking at the Karnak megaliths, but he's also applied it to Göbekli Tepe. He's found that using modular geometry, which is the use of squares, double squares, triple squares, and so on, all perfectly north-south, and the angles between the diagonals and things like this.
Right.
If you place them in a certain manner, quite naturally over Göbekli Tepe, it proves they understood north, south, east, and west, even though things appear to be at an angle. And so that is interesting. So if they had that, so clearly they knew north and they knew south. They must have done. And so, because they were laying things out in a very geometrical, mathematical configuration. So that is intriguing, because a lot of people thought the first time north and south was incorporated into sites was at the Great Pyramid in Egypt. But actually, no, it seems like it was happening at Göbekli Tepe.
It's not coincidence, man.
No,
it's simply not. And for you, as we head towards a break here, you've stacked up a lot of recent discoveries, personal discoveries yourself. Let's start going through some of those. What have you found? And for you, I mean, there's always something that is just like right for you. Let's start there.
Well, the Karahan Tepe is the big one, the winter solstice alignment, where this will kind of lead on to the other stuff we can discuss after the break. But this is like the kind of thing JJ and I witnessed on December the 20th, 2021. The light kind of shone through this porthole stone and illuminated the big stone head inside structure AB at Karahan Tepe with all the upright pillars in it, you know, the one. Mm-hmm. And that is precision alignments. I mean, that is like, oh my God. I mean, there's no clearer indicator of a winter solstice than that anywhere on the planet, and it's the oldest as well. On top of that, and even the one at Stonehenge is just coming over the top of a big block, and a kind of rough area getting illuminated, and aligned this huge avenue. It's not like a slither of light an inch thick that's marking it, and so that's what's so impressive about that. There are other places that have that. I mean, we look at like Newgrange, for instance, has a winter solstice alignment where was it a few minutes after sunrise, 4 minutes after sunrise, and it lasts for 17 minutes. This tiny light box like this big, as a light, the sunrise comes through it and creates this shard of light at the back of the chamber, like 50 feet at the back. It moves across just for 17 minutes along these different carvings and then stops. That's it, gone. It's one time a year it happens over a few days, because it's a standstill. That's what solstice means. The sun rises in the same place appears to rise in the same place for 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days. And in some cases, and so you get it for a few mornings on the run, but not any other time of year. So that's intriguing. We have that at Chaco Canyon. We have the Great Spiral, where the edges of it get illuminated. There's 2 shards of light come through these kind of big blocks that are being placed over it and illuminate the edges of it. I think on the summer solstice and on the winter solstice, it's 1 shard of light dead through the middle. And so it's like a kind of marker, a light marker. And I think this was first really properly developed at Karahan Tepe. But as we're going to discuss after the break, the thing I want to share with people is my fascination. I've become obsessed by the solstice. So we've got it coming up, in a few weeks. We're going to celebrate it. I'm going to be at the Cosmic Summit. I'm not going to be at Stonehenge for once, which is weird, but I'm going to be at the Cosmic Summit, and I'm going to be sharing all this with them there as well, because I think it's really important that people understand. I mean, look at what you're doing. You're going to the Inti Raymi festival in Peru. I mean, it's a massive celebration. It lasts for days. It lasts for a week, I think.
I cannot wait.
But why though? But why are they celebrating the solstice? I mean, why is it so important? I think this is what we're missing.
They've been doing it. They've been doing it. I'm going to Sacsayhuaman, right? So they've been doing that gathering for thousands of years on that hilltop.
Yeah,
exactly. I cannot wait for this.
This is what I mean. It's like Stonehenge is the same. It's been going on for 5,000 years. Now we've got Karahan Tepe, like 11,000 years or more. But there's evidence now of celebrating the solstice going back between 17 and 40,000 years. This is what's so insane. And it's got, and that it's a whole, hang on a sec. People were doing that back then? What?
Yes.
But they were, and there's evidence for it now, and it's abundant as well. It's not just one or two examples; it's dozens of examples.
When I look at when I look back, France and Spain are great for this in the cave art, but and we found handprints just about on every continent. It's not just in Lascaux. It's not just in Spain, right? This thing.
Yeah.
And so what? Oh, okay. So anyway, but this is my take. The comments that academia will say about this is, you're not giving Stone Age man enough credit. Okay, that's a cop-out. That right there is a cop-out. What they are avoiding is, what if there was something before? That's what they don't want to go there. And I look at this, and to look at the unbelievable artwork that rivals any modern artist today. Okay, period. And they didn't go to art school 50,000 years ago, right? They didn't go to art school, but somebody was teaching something. Lascaux was occupied for 5,000 years. 5,000 years, man. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I know.
It's just,
it is incredible. It is incredible when you start looking deeper into, like, what's going on and why people were studying the skies so early on. I mean, there's some remarkable stuff that's being unearthed recently. I guarantee if they get into Göbekli Tepe, they're going to find some stuff that's going to just back all this up. It's going to answer a lot of questions, and for some reason they're hesitating. They don't want to do it, and it's like, I think we need to kind of harass them a little bit or something.
You would think that every university in the United States would be funding expeditions there now.
Yeah,
that would be the most well-funded. I mean, this is as exciting as King Tut's tomb. This is like the biggest discovery so far. There's more to be discovered, and there will always be other stuff. But up to this point, it's the most exciting site on planet Earth. Why isn't there? You know what I mean? Every Penn State, Harvard, Yale, Arizona State, Stanford, I can just go Purdue, whatever. Pick a university. They should all have teams there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, luckily though, what is good is that they're jumping in, and they're basically uncovering a whole bunch of other sites. Karahan Tepe, they're going for it. I mean, there's a lot we could talk about that shortly as well. But they're going for it. There's like 12 sites in total. There's officially 12, but there's going to be more. There's potentially 38. There was the latest kind of estimate I got, of definite sites. There's probably 100 in total, smaller ones as well. And so they are doing a lot of them. I think 7 or so are under excavation now, so it's happening. They've kind of moved off Göbekli Tepe because they want to kind of secure it, turn it into a tourist site. They love doing all that. They're doing that with Karahan Tepe now, but it has to be done essentially to protect them and to preserve them and to monetize them, because it costs a lot to funding these excavations and all the people they got to pay. And so thankfully a lot of other sites are getting uncovered, so it is happening in some respects. But I want to see I'm desperate to see what's under that. Now they've cleared the trees away, you can see, oh my god, what on earth is under there? I want to see in there.
When I look at, we'll take our break right here, but when I look at the images of Göbekli Tepe and I look at that orchard, I'm like, what? Get that out of there. It's so fine.
It's gone.
I mean, it was big too. I mean,
yeah.
Just go back and look. It was literally the size of Göbekli Tepe, perfectly square. You could tell that there was some farming, some agriculture that was continuing on the most important site on planet Earth. Hugh Newman, you stay right there. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, it is Gobekli and Karahan Tepe and so much more. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Göbekli Tepe. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Puma Punku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice,
That's
right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, the one and only Hugh Newman is with us. My favorite subject, Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe. Hugh Newman is with us. You know, Hugh, listening, I was in the other room getting coffee and listening to that commercial. And I never fixed it because I shot it live with Brian Forrester 6 months ago when I was down there. But I say summer solstice. and it kills me every time I hear it, but I can't recut it. You know, in the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but it's confusing because you have some sites which are just north or south of the equator, and then what do you do? It becomes a bit confusing. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, I think you correct in one if you're repeating it from America, you know.
It's like nails on a chalkboard to me,
Yeah.
though. When I hear it, it's just like, oh man. And Brian, such a gentleman, he should have corrected me right then. Church, whack. It's the winter solstice. I want to ask you. We're going to stay on the solstice subject. I want to ask you something. I don't do religion on this show. Okay, I don't. I don't like to divide people. I like doing the conspiracy of religion, though. All right. December 21st, right?
Yeah.
And the baby Jesus and Christmas. Is it the solstice that they were referencing in the Bible?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, right, you think about it, okay? This is I've actually written an article about this. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek one about the relationship between Testepala winter solstices and Christmas, because if you think about it, this is kind of, people have written about this before. This isn't my idea. There's, as the sun continues on the solstice from about the 20th, you know, sometime maybe the 19th or 20th, for a few days up until about the 24th, the sun is rising in the same position, the most southerly point on the horizon. It kind of reaches that point, and then it kind of starts to turn back, coming back to the north, along the north, towards the north along the horizon. But those few days, it's sort of stuck there. It's the standstill. That's what solstice means. But around the 25th, the sun starts moving again. It comes back to life. This is Christmas Day. This is the birth of Jesus. You know, so it's all a representation of that. Clearly, you know, if you like,
You think it's all metaphor? I don't
Yeah,
want
it's
to
all
piss
metaphor.
people off, man. Just don't send me email about this. I'm just saying it feels metaphor to me.
Well, you think about it. It's like the most famous or potentially historical person in history is 100% related to the winter solstice, and so he is emphasizing the solstice. The whole religion is, if you think about it, and I think that's what's so interesting about it. And you look into other myths, other stories going into Egypt and Persia and places like this, they all have similar kind of stories relating to this, you know, like being reborn or birth or the light coming forth. And this is actually relating to something JJ and I have written about the fertility aspects of these sites in Testepala, like Karahan Tepe, especially because the winter solstice is often related to death, regeneration, rebirth. This is the kind of process of life at that time of year where the sun kind of dies, it disappears, and then it returns into the light and growth comes back. And so this is like probably there's very strong evidence of, you know, native cultures having ceremonies at this time and acting out things at this time, at this time of year to mark that. And like you can actually find evidence of that. We're often like you find bones at certain sites, you find fertility kind of effigies at certain sites. They even found one in Newgrange, for instance. Certainly at Karahan Tepe, all the kind of in the pillar shrine structure AB, it's a bunch of phalluses basically. And so, you know, so there is this kind of whole fertility element to it. And I think this also, when you start looking at the earlier solstices relating to the Paleolithic caves, you find that as well, because it seems like, you know, there's no, you know, some people have often said the solstices, the equinoxes, the solar year is all about agriculture. It's about marking the times to grow food at certain turnings of the year. But they were working with the solstice long before agriculture. Even Karahan Tepe was before agriculture. But the earlier sites, which we're going to talk about, go back tens of thousands of years. There was definitely no agriculture then, but they were aligning things. And so it would be this special moment where initiations and ceremonies and rites of passage took place, because it was there, you know, this was like, you know, you imagine, you know, back at that time, you got no distractions. You just got the sky and the kind of landscape to work with. That's it. So it would have a profound influence on you. So you try and understand it to the best
Can
of
you
your ability.
imagine? You're right about that. When your movie theater, your entertainment is the sky. That's it. That's your widescreen TV. And so you're there watching the sun do its thing, and then one day it stops, and then the next day it's reversing direction. Man, can you imagine? And that we don't notice it today. We don't even care.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
I agree.
But back then, that was like the deal. I can only imagine what it meant to every culture on this planet when they witnessed it.
Yeah, so what I find fascinating as well. I mean, let's just talk about the solstice. I mean, we're approaching it. It has a massive effect on people. Everyone is part of religion, whether they know it or not. It's part of our culture. You're celebrating it, whether you like it or not. When you go to Peru, you're going to be doing that for a week, huge celebrations. Stonehenge goes wild on the summer solstice and on the winter solstice. There's alignments to both actually at Stonehenge. I mean, let's start there. Because Stonehenge, I mean, you got the classic summer solstice alignment, which is to the northeast, and you got the whole avenue aligned to it. But there's also a winter solstice sunrise alignment, which is more obscure, but it is there, discovered by Simon Bantam and a couple of other people. There's also the winter solstice sunset. But we have to remember, like, the thing about Stonehenge, which a lot of people don't know, is that it was occupied from 10,000 years ago. There's a site called Blickmead nearby. There's giant wooden pine post holes were found about 50 yards from where the main stone circle would then be built, date back to 10,000 years ago. And what I find absolutely fascinating about this is part of the research I've been doing, is if you actually look in the landscape, they found what are called periglacial ridges, which are these natural geological features, and there's two of them, and they mark exactly the avenue, the summer solstice sunrise, and they've been there for tens of thousands of years, possibly hundreds of thousands of years, and they're these natural kind of ridges that mark the summer solstice sunrise or the winter solstice sunset, and later the avenue was built over them. And what's also interesting is that there used to be, before Stonehenge was there, we're talking 10,000 years ago, in Stonehenge, there was a natural knoll, like a mound, and it could have been built up and worked by people. And at the other end of the periglacial strips, or the avenue, was another mound called Newell's Mound, because he was the guy who discovered it. And so this two mounds and these periglacial strips going down, or stripes going down the kind of which they marked. Each one of marked the summer solstice and the winter solstice together, and so that was there 10,000 years ago. So you go, hang on a sec, they were like measuring the solstice 10,000 years ago at Stonehenge with these natural features, and the whole site got built around it, marking the same thing. And so that blows my mind, because it proves that the megalithics of Stonehenge aren't necessarily what they were doing with the solstices. That came later. It developed around what was known about 5,000 years before that. And so that blows my mind. And that's just a tip of the iceberg of what my research is getting into. And this is all documented. This is all in these academic papers. I found all the data on it, and it's for real. And it was definitely that age. They found dating going back slightly older than 10,000 years ago. And this is right in the heart of what's called the Mesolithic in Britain, but it's also the pre-pottery Neolithic if you're in Turkey. And I get this real sense that these ideas were spreading around after the end of the last ice age. From Göbekli Tepe, they were coming up here, literally traveling up, and they could have come here easily. They could have walked here, because Doggerland joined Europe up.
You read my mind. You read my mind.
And so we have to consider that.
If we look at the population of the whole of the United Kingdom back then, who was doing all of this? Well, it could have been anybody from Europe and Northern Europe. They just walked. We see the English Channel today, and we don't make that connection. But that there was a land bridge there that went back millions of years, right?
Yeah, this is like Dogger only disappeared around 8,000 or so years ago.
That's right.
And so before that, You could easily do it, but even if that wasn't, if that wasn't there, there's evidence of seafaring going back to 12,000 years ago between Turkey and Cyprus. Clear evidence of it. It's all come out. It's all in. This is documented. This is academic research, and so seafaring was taking place for large groups of people, and so there's that to consider as well. When we people try and dismiss diffusionism and things like this, that is proven beyond doubt now. But I mean, so that's happening in Britain, right? So we've got all that going on. I mean, even up in Scotland, as you're going to Scotland next year, there's a site called Warren Field near Aberdeen. It's in Aberdeenshire. It's in the whole area where we have all the stone circles. But there's a site there which is also 10,000 years old, called Warren Field. This was researched by Professor Vince Gaffney. He came and spoke at our conference, and they found this series again of post holes, like this curving series of post holes, which marked the phases of the moon, but the central part of it aligned to the winter solstice sunrise precisely 10,000 in Scotland, like in northeast Scotland. And so what is going on there? I mean, then it should have been full of ice, right? That's what, it's why it's so far north. But actually, there's a whole area around Aberdeenshire which was free of ice earlier than the rest of Scotland. So again, if you're trying to survey the Earth, you're trying to kind of measure the planet in ancient times, you need to get as far north as possible and as far south as possible. And so you had this opportunity when they probably were building the kind of, or measuring the stuff at Stonehenge 10,000 years ago. They probably went as far north as they possibly could before they hit the ice sheets, the ice cliffs. And this is where they got to, and they were able to make these calculations. So that is impressive, firstly, because of the distances they were traveling to do this, and they were leaving it there, marking it, and making it a solid wood and, in the landscape. I think is really intriguing. Plus, they had the knowledge to do it. So where did that come from? And that was definitely happening in Taztepala regions. We know that because of the Karahan Tepe alignments, because of the data that's coming out of Göbekli Tepe and other such things. But this is all, after Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe and things like this. But it's the stuff before it which is really blown my mind, because this is actually first introduced to me by Professor Martin Sweatman, who's done some brilliant work on working on a calendar at Göbekli Tepe and at Karahan Tepe, and also on the fact that there's symbolism at Göbekli Tepe which could indicate they had like astronomical signs marked at the site. And he found the same thing in Lascaux Cave as well, and he believed there's connections between the two. But he took that a step further, and he pointed out in his book there was Lascaux aligns to the summer solstice sunset. And I thought that went ping. I'm like, what? How can that be? And so I looked into it, and I couldn't quite believe, because that was just the tip of the iceberg. What we found was that there were some French researchers. I mean, we're talking going back into the 70s and 80s here. A whole bunch of French researchers, there's people from Germany doing this, and they realized that on the summer solstice in Lascaux, the sunrise would come through the entrance, which appeared to be aligned to the summer solstice sunset alignment. And at that time of year, it would penetrate into the cave and illuminate one of the paintings at the back of it almost perfectly. And it's like, boom, hang on a sec, what is going on here? So over a 7-year period, there was a French researcher called Wiltshire, I think is how you pronounce her name. She studied 130 caves in the whole French Dordogne region and a few other places, and found that 122 of them aligned to either the solstices or the equinoxes, but most of them were aligned to the winter solstice, which really got me, or the summer solstice, the sunset as well, but mainly the winter solstice. And so how could this be? So what they were doing was, they were finding that they were choosing caves which they must have known were aligned to what they wanted it to be aligned to before they chose that cave. So they were searching out caves that they knew were aligned to what they wanted it to be aligned to.
You're suggesting high intelligence.
very high intelligence. Now we're
Very
talking, they
high.
must have had an understanding of this before they did this. And some
Right.
of these caves go back to 37,000 years ago.
That's right. That's right.
This is the thing. And like Lascau's new. I mean, that's like 17,000 years ago. That's a new cave in relation to the others. Like we have the Abri Castanet rock shelter.
I was going to say, what about
ago.
Castillo and some of the Spanish stuff? Were those
some
Solstice?
They think now some of the Spanish caves. Now they researched mainly in France, but I believe some of the Spanish caves. They've even found stuff going into Russia, which may have also had the similar ideas. There's also the famous cave that has the kind of fish carving on it. I forget the name of the cave exactly. And that goes back 25,000 years ago, and that one is aligned to the winter solstice sunrise. And remember, some of these caves, not all of them, but some of them, there's like almost like a natural entrance. They could have even carved it a bit, but this natural entrance that they were choosing, these alignments, they were often illuminating either 3D relief carvings they carved out of rock or paintings. So firstly, it kind of indicates that probably on the solstice, they were probably painting them because it was like the spiritual moment of that time of year.
Right.
And they would do it and they'd be in this sort of altered state. But also then later there'd be ceremonies and initiations and, things
well, they
like
could
this
watch.
at that
They could watch for the illumination on that day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And it would probably be the elite few who would go in there. It would be like the shamans. It would be like the people who had this knowledge. And it would be like magic to all the other people. How could it possibly be? How could you know this was going to happen? And so I think that's an element to it. This is where these brilliant French research. I mean, I had to translate most of this because it wasn't in English. That's why not many people know about it. But tons of data is done on it. I'm going to be going out there in August with my family. We're going to go and look at some of these caves. I want to check some of the alignments because I think there's something profound going on here. Because you have the earlier work of Alexander Marshak from the early 70s, who did a whole ton of research on artifacts found in caves, mainly bone artifacts that had tally marks marking out different calendrical times and periods very carefully, of the moon mainly, but also of the sun, sometimes the planets. And other researchers were noting that in Lascaux and some of the other caves, they were clearly kind of astrological representations, like the bull for Taurus, like a kind of hunter figure for Orion and things like this. And so, I've got to credit Martin Sweatman with some of this because he kind of really pushed that and connected it with Göbekli Tepe as well. But the solstice thing really gets me because it gives me an understanding of now what was going on in Karahan Tepe, because it wasn't something they invented there. It was a legacy that came from these Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. And loads of the ideas that we take for granted in the Tas Temple sites, we can now see them being developed in these caves. And this is why we can't underestimate these people from Europe who are doing this. These were very smart, very interesting people. I mean, people like you and me, the same size brains, very probably great sense of humor, had a lot of fun and everything else. But I guarantee that they were kind of inspired individuals.
They must have had a language, and they had the ability to tell the story, because that's what's depicted on the walls. That's storytelling.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I have a hard time just thinking that they did all of this by grunting and laughing. Do you understand what I'm saying? They had to have a language.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree, and I think they probably did. I mean, I think we do. They probably did. I mean, they're just as smart as us. I think we have to kind of consider that they're just as smart as us.
I'm gonna jump in before I forget this thought that just popped in my head. I recently had, because I'm talking to you from the UK. All right. I had Haley Ramsey on the show last month, and she's smart. She's smart. She's just smart. And she managed to blow my mind. She taught me something. She teaches me a lot. Farabee boats. Holy crap. And I didn't know. Now I've done a lot of research into them since then, but 2000 BC, right? Right there in the UK. Now
Yeah.
there's that part, but the construction of them are the same. I'm saying the same as Egypt. That's kind of that's funky to me. And so when you talk about the reason why I thought about this, Hugh, is you were talking about Northern Europe or other cultures coming over to the UK. And then the question of boats or how did they get there? And then the Ferriby boats pop up and they're frigging from the Mediterranean. That's the design. What do you make of the Ferriby boats? And is this too far out to consider, or is it exactly what we think it is?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, there are definitely Egyptians in Britain. I mean, we've written about that actually in one of Jim's book on the giants of Stonehenge in Britain, because
That's right.
you have the whole story of Scota and faience beads that are found in many of the tombs in Britain that go back, to the Bronze Age. These are only produced in Egypt, for instance. But you have some of the myths and legends, place names associated with that as well. These boats as well, for sure. I think they were found up in Yorkshire, right? They were found up in northern England. And this is traditionally where Scota first came in, who was supposedly the daughter of Akhenaten. And so, yeah, you get all that. I mean, we've written about that quite intensely in our book, actually, because we found quite a few of these giants' tombs that had Egyptian artifacts, especially the faience beads, the types of beads that you get, from that are kind of created in Egypt. But remember, you talk about seafaring, that doesn't surprise me at all. I've got to be honest with you. You look at the data that's come out of the boats going between Turkey and Cyprus 12,000 years ago, and they were large, transporting large amounts of people. We're not just talking 2 or 3 people. We're talking 50 to 100 people, and this was happening 12. So that doesn't surprise me anymore. If that, and they probably haven't found half the evidence they need to kind of prove this whole theory. I guarantee there's going to be a load more that is just washed away under the sea, under mud and silt and everything. And so that really doesn't surprise me. And this is important if you're going to, that proves to me that they could travel from Turkey and go anywhere they wanted to survey the planet. And I think this is what they were doing. After the end of the last ice age, they were going out and they had their kind of mission was to kind of travel the planet, see what's happened to it, see what's changed, measure it, put everything back, get the astronomical. You use astronomy to kind of measure as well. This is part of the whole system, including navigation as well. So I think it's all connected. And I think Egypt was a later legacy of what these people were doing.
The Ferriby boats, when I love learning. All right. I love learning. And one of the things that intrigues me, because I have a very black and white mind, I just like facts. Okay. I love theories. I can sit here and theorize anything. Right. But when you look at the evidence of something like the Ferriby boats, and then you turn around and you look at the construction of the Khufu boat, look, it's identical.
Yeah.
The same lash plank construction. Right. Well, that's a black and white thing to me. And I love that aspect of this, but it's glaring and right there. Who else was designing these types of boats at 2000 BC? There's only one place, Egypt.
Yeah.
That's it. And so if that isn't a direct connection of navigating through the Mediterranean and out of Gibraltar, heading north and cruising into the UK, I don't know what else to say.
No, I agree. I think they're kind of, the Egyptians are rubbing it in our faces by burying boats right next to the pyramids. They
Right.
kind of, it's it's not like we're hiding. Going to put them right next to the pyramids. This is what we were doing. Hello, and that's what, that's 2,500 BC. That's 3,000 BC, probably, if you think it, possibly much older as well, and the wood from that came from Lebanon. So how did that get there?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's what I said to Haley. I said they need to check the cedar of those Farabee boats. I bet you they came from Lebanon, as did the rest of the wood in the Mediterranean, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How crazy is that? Nobody wants to do that kind of testing. They don't want to have that kind of proof, right? Because it just goes against the grain of everything else.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, they must. I mean, clearly, this diffusionism thing has got to be put to bed. I think now, because of this, what you're talking about, but also, the Cyprus boats. This really needs to be addressed, because that opens up everything. Possibilities now are just, they could go anywhere at any time, pretty much.
Let's test that wood. No, let's not. No. Okay, can I have some fun with you for a second?
Okay.
You're a megalithic guy, all right? And I know you think about this stuff all the time. So let me pick your brain. How were stones transported that were that large before the wheel?
That is one of the big. Oh God, that's like literally the hardest question you start with. That's like
exactly.
That's the fun question. Boats, maybe. That could be
across
one.
Dry land.
No, not across dry land, but they may have created channels and things like this.
Okay.
There is a stream, using streams, and also there's something about cold water at night, where when it hits about 4 degrees, it becomes really buoyant. And so this is one of the theories of the whole Giza thing as well. I mean, the stones to be honest with you, the stones in Britain, most of them could be moved, I think, by people being really smart. And we now know how smart these people were. And so I think and they focused their day-to-day activities around solving these riddles, these problems, and I think also there's like this whole element of like religious fervor, like focused togetherness, probably a few mushrooms, which also gives you endurance and strength to actually move them. And I think there's something to be said for that, seriously, as well. And but also I think, having read the books of Vine Deloria Jr., which I highly recommend to everybody. He's a Native American scholar and visionary. He collected hundreds, if not thousands, of accounts, of first-hand witness accounts of high-level sorcery and magic taking place in front of people's eyes, including levitating stones. So I believe that there's this thing we've lost as a culture. It's been written out of rubbed out of our kind of DNA, our consciousness, our upbringing, our kind of raising of people, of this power of the mind, this telekinetic power, and that has to be addressed, because I think we have that ability. It's within us, and it was enhanced. It was worked with in ancient times, and you can see film footage of people doing this kind of stuff in the Philippines, and who are like these shamans and things like that. And the reports of the Vine Deloria collected of Native Americans doing these kind of things was like, oh my God.
So you're saying Merlin was real?
Why not?
Rocks.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm with you.
I'm okay
with that, man. I'm doing the Monty Python Holy Grail tour next year for a reason, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you need a bit of Merlin in that one. Yes,
you do.
Levitating some blocks. Yeah, for sure. And but yeah, I think that's it can't be overlooked. I mean, I might be completely wrong. It's pure speculation, but there's so many accounts and myths and eyewitness stories that kind of support that. It really gets me. But also, me and Jim,
Saxi Huaman.
Yeah.
Every time I'm there, and I just look back and I go, okay, you can go up, you can touch, you can see, it's right in front of you. And you just back up and just go, how?
Yeah.
How?
That is mental.
It's bigger than my house. Right?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same thing could be happening there, but also I like, Jim Vieira, me and him written a couple of books on giants. Giants did it. There is that. There are myths of giants going way back in ancient Egypt. linked with the building of the pyramids. All these Arabian stories go back to the 1100s, talk about this. So you have that side of it, which could be part of it. It might not be, but you know, there's things that are kind of we don't think about. We don't think about the giants. We don't think about the power of the mind. And I think there was just the ingenuity of the ancients is something to behold, because you know, even in Taztepala times, the ingenuity of just creating the stone structures, carving the bedrock. They also had like air conditioning and things like this. They learned how to brew beer. They developed agriculture. They definitely had magnetism in some of their sites. They had acoustic properties. They had intricate geometry and measurements and things like this. So if they were doing that back then, I'm sure they could have developed some of the ideas that kind of and techniques, even mind techniques, to take that to another level.
Yeah, I don't dismiss any of that. And you know what has convinced me about giants? I'm not cracking jokes here. I'm not being cavalier. All right. You know what has convinced me of giants? If the ancients were so smart, how come they made stairs wrong? Because those stair steps are huge. So you and I, right, today, you're at these sites, you're like, God bless, man. They could have made these stairs smaller, but they're made for bigger people. You wouldn't screw that up. No, you made it for the size of the people that were doing those stairs. And I'm not, it sounds like I'm being silly. I'm not. The stairs are wrong.
But you get giant artifacts, you get giant doorways and things like this. I mean, I think it just needs to be.
But no. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not cracking jokes here. It's obvious when you're there. It's like this is for bigger people. It's not my size. It doesn't fit me.
No, yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, having co-written 2 books about them, we're not people just to like kind of make stuff up. Me and Jim, we're quite kind of, we won't write about it unless we're serious about it. And the amount of accounts we came up with, the myths that associated giants with these megaliths, almost every single site in Britain, you kind of have to kind of just think, hang on a sec, there's something bizarre going on here, and it has to be just at least be there. It's like, you know, right at the edge of the historical record. It has to just sit there. It can't just be deleted from it, which is it's been attempted with these giants. I think it needs to be addressed again, like certain other things do, like the archaeoastronomy, the kind of intricacies of the stonework, which shouldn't have existed at that time. The quality of the creation of 3D relief carvings. It's like it's too many anomalies, and they just keep coming. They're not stopping. They ain't quitting. They're just going to keep coming, and they're going to keep bugging the archaeologists, and they're going to get more. And I think that's partly why they don't want to excavate too much more, because there's going to be too many more questions that can't be answered.
Yeah, I was just looking I can't find it here. I'm going to do one more quick peek, and of these stairs in Peru at the Sun Gate Temple, which is right off of the freeway there. And they have a custodian, a guard that's there that keeps an eye on everything. You're not allowed to have fun, right? But when he was looking away, I climbed the wall. Oh. And so they have these stones, and you know what I'm talking about, these stones that are sticking out of the megalithic part that are stairs to get up to the top. And they're like 3 feet apart. And so I'm trying to climb. It is the most difficult thing. I'm lucky I didn't fall. And somebody had taken a bunch of, I can't find them here, Hugh. Otherwise I would just pop it up and show it. Man, I'm at the Sun Gate right here. And let me see what this is. Let me see this. Yeah. Okay. All right. I have a picture here. I'm going to show this to you. All right. Let me move this up here. Come here. No, not this one. This one. Okay. Now look at this, and I don't know if I'm not some PhD archaeologist. I'm not anything close to that. But if you look here, now I'm going to zoom in. You see those steps?
Yeah.
You see those? Those are 3 feet in between. So to climb those, now that's the megalithic in the background, right? But look at this. It just doesn't make it's impossible to climb.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying, right? Those are 3 feet apart.
I mean, yeah, you look at the Giza pyramid as well. I mean, even though they used to be faced, but the steps in them are kind of bizarre. You just can't quite get your head around them. There's a lot of places that have that kind of inexplicable kind of design of how they could have walked around with it, and
Now, so let's stay on this. Let's stay on this exact point. About 4 months ago, there was a published paper that talked about some of the stones at Stonehenge were now located to come from Scotland.
Yes, that's true.
I don't understand that, unless it was easy for them to do, but it was 500 miles, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, the stones they're talking about is basically it's the altar stone. There could be 2 of them as well, according to some research by Andrew Collins, where they were kind of 8 foot long, kind of rectangular blocks of sandstone, I believe. Definitely came from Scotland. Some people say from Orkney Island, the main island there. But we must remember that many of the blue stones, the spotted dolerite stones, there's probably like 50 of them in Stonehenge, came from West Wales, 125 miles away. Anyway, and everyone's known about that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Stonehenge, I believe, was like the national temple of the British Isles when it was built at the time. And it was known about, as we know, we talked about this earlier, in Mesolithic times. It was a gathering place back then, because there's a site just down the road here called Blickmead, which goes back 10,000 years. And there's a natural spring there that produces this pink algae. And a whole settlement was built around that, which developed into the Stonehenge landscape, where all the very early astronomy was done. And so the fact that it became a famous place back then, and there were people coming into the area even in Mesolithic times. So at the time of Stonehenge, and incidentally, this is actually a winter solstice thing as well. There's a site called Durrington Wold and Woodhenge, which you probably know about.
Right.
There's evidence there of massive gatherings on the winter solstice, people coming in from all over the country, even different parts of Europe. So guarantee this was a get together to also do some building at the site, where they would bring stones from different areas that they had a certain quality, a magical quality maybe, and actually utilize them into the site. So I think it all makes sense, because the earliest stone circles in Britain are up in Orkney. They go back to 3200 BC. There's even earlier sites up there that go back to nearly 4000 BC as well. And so it makes sense to me that they would do that. I think that's.
But it's also, they didn't have GPS, so to go and transport those 2 altar stones from Scotland all the way down to Stonehenge, you have to know where you're going. You can't get lost, and you're transporting, multiple tons.
Yeah,
it's fascinating to me. And the same situation again with the solstice alignment is Ollantaytambo, and you go to the top of Ollantaytambo, and what do you have? You've got 6 blocks up there that are 30, 40, 50 tons each, perfectly cut, perfectly aligned, on the top of those stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And it's so steep. These mountains are like completely vertical around there.
Yeah.
How did they transport those stones to the top of that mountain? I don't get it.
You know, there's the lazy stones or the tired stones, which you find all around the base of Ollantay Tambo. The story goes, legend that is, that we know where the quarry is. The quarry is like a few miles away up the top of another mountain. And so, so somehow, if we're talking traditional kind of logistics, and they bring it down and then take it up another mountain, it's like, what the hell? It's a 4-hour walk up the mountain to the quarry as well. It's not close. But other people, as we suggested with the Merlin hypothesis, is that they would levitate it from one place to another. The reason you find all these massive blocks around the base of Ollantay Tambo on the route they would have took is because they lost concentration while they were trying to levitate them. They slammed down on the ground.
I'm okay with that.
You've seen Ollantay Tambo. You've seen all the way around it. You find like 10 of these blocks in various places in the village, along the road. You're like, no one's going to
down by the bathrooms at the entrance, down at the bottom.
Yeah.
That little field is littered with giant stones.
You get that at Tiwanaku and Puma Punku as well. There's a mountain or a volcano called Cerro Capia. So on the other side of Lake Titicaca in Peru to Bolivia, where Puma Punku and Tiwanaku, and myself and JJ, we spent a couple of weeks there after one of our tours with Brian back in 2017. And we followed the path from the quarry at Cerro Capia, where we know the stones from Tiwanaku came from, Puma Punku, to Puma Punku. And there's all these stones along this route just being dropped there. And it's like, what the hell? Why are they still there? I mean, we found 10 different sites over a 20-mile area. It's like, what the hell? And so firstly, they had to get it across the lake, and then they had to transport. And so were they trying to levitate them and they lost concentration? Who knows? But you get the same thing there as well. You actually get that in quite a lot of other places as well, where there seem to have been just forgotten stones, sort of near the quarry.
That's one of the sad things about Puma Punku. People don't talk about this. One of the sad things, it's heartbreaking, is when you walk to the back half of the site, not the front where the H blocks are, and you just walk around over the top, from the steps in the back, right? And then you come up over the top. You are tripping over shit sticking out of the ground. It's everywhere, man. It's crazy. And nobody's excavating, nobody's digging, nobody's checking it out. And you're looking and you're like, what's on the other half of this? How big is this stone? And it's carved, it's perfect, drill holes, and it's just sticking out of the ground.
Yeah. I mean, something's hit that place. I mean, it's almost like the Lake Titicaca, just flooded it, threw everything
Something
around.
Exploded. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, it looks like there's no way someone is going around just knocking them over. I mean, they're way too big for that. And there's something.
Well, let me ask you about this before we wrap the show. Again, you have to go to Puma Punku to understand what Hugh and I are talking about. But the site itself is ginormous. It's so big. It's not the front with the H blocks. But when you walk the perimeter, the full square, all of it, the three walls on three sides are perfect. There's a couple of tunnels there too, as well, as you know. That are perfect. But then when you go around the back half, all of that perfect stonework is cast about. It's you know what I mean? And you just look at it and you're like, okay. And these are huge stones that are carved, quarried, beautiful, that were once part of this wall, and they're just thrown all over the place. No humans are picking that up and throwing it. That's not. So what do you think happened on the back half of Puma Punku?
To be honest with you, I mean, I've been Brian, I've been there with Brian Forrester a few times, many times actually. And I just cannot for the life of me work out what was going on. I mean, it seems like, it's like massive explosions or massive tidal wave. But how can that be? How can a lake have that much power? Because they're covered in mud. That's the thing. It's covered in dirt and mud that isn't just natural kind of layering of of things like that. It's like, for the life of me, I cannot work that out, and I think that's one of the. I
can't either because well, because you see it up close and personal. You're walking, that back half, that perfect wall. It's beautiful too, and it's almost a quarter mile long. I don't know. It's a few hundred yards for sure, and that it's just perfectly laid and carved. And then you round the corner, and the corner's perfect, and then right, it's just like everything is. It's just thrown all over the place. I can't. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and those back stairs too. Those back stairs. That looks funky to me.
Yeah, because they think that the back, because Puma Punku, for people who don't know, is like a giant kind of platform pyramid, and as is Tiwanaku, the kind of Akapana pyramid there.
I think they were both. I think they were both pyramids myself.
Yeah, but the back end of Puma Punku, like you mentioned, these giant steps, that they think that was like a port going into Lake Titicaca at the time, because the lake would have come up to that point, a couple of thousand years ago. And so I think that is it. So that's why it feels like it's some kind of major water cataclysm, if you can call it that. That's what it seems like. I mean, just by observing it and seeing it for yourself, you kind of like, oh, that's just what it looks like,
It looks like it because everything is tumbled. Yeah, and these are big blocks. People need to understand when you walk next to these. Some of these most of them at that part of the wall construction are 4 or 5 feet, 6 feet long, 3 feet thick, and maybe 3 feet deep. They're large carved blocks, and they're just thrown all over the place.
Yeah,
sure, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. I love Puma Punku, Tiwanaku too, though. That's no joke. I don't know, and I look at when you look at Puma Punku from the backside, Tiwanaku too. It's square. It's a platform, and it looks like it's the base of a pyramid, and there are tunnels going into it.
Yeah.
So that's and everybody's focused on the H blocks as they should. Yeah. One other point. Hold on. You've been there enough. Okay, H blocks. Yeah, man, cool. That looks like it looks to me like all those flat stones that are interlocking, right? And you can see how they locked. I think that was upright. Do you think that was a wall at one point?
Yeah. There were very large walls there. There's a friend of mine called Kevin Esslinger. He's a graphic 3D artist. He's reconstructed Karahan Tepe for me. He worked on Puma Punku as well for Ancient Aliens. In fact, there was actually an episode. And I was involved with working with him on that. And at Puma Punku, he reconstructed it in 4 or 5 different ways in a stunning way. And one of the things he worked out as he was doing it, as he started putting it all back together, basically like lifting up the stones out of the mud and putting them back together in this 3D thing, he realized there was a very precise, clear winter solstice and summer solstice alignment. It occurred during him reconstructing it. So that again, you've got that as well. That's a new thing as well. I mean, it ended up in this episode of Ancient Aliens. It's updated, it's called Reconstructing Puma Punku. People can check it out if they've got access to it. But have a look at that if you can, man. I mean, that is really cool. I mean, he's a very interesting guy, and the reason he worked that out is because he worked out and proved that the Karahan Tepe alignment works by reconstructing it even with a roof and where the stones used to be. So he did a similar thing for Puma Punku and found that where the statue was, one of the upright kind of Viracocha statues would have been behind. If he placed it in a certain place, that would have come through and illuminated the face of it, like you get a Karahan Tepe. So he was like, oh. And so I worked with him on that a bit. So there's that as well. And the reconstruction he did, basically the main area, that where all the stones are, the slabs are and everything, that was just one elongated, almost like room, giant platforms, but also large, and all the blocks interlocking, creating these 3 rooms with these 3 doorways. So that was quite surprising when you put all that together. But so what you're saying is, makes sense as well. And that was just one area on top of this giant flat kind of level pyramid. as well. And so,
Yeah, fascinating, man.
Absolutely fascinating place. It just still baffles me, that place.
I can't wait. I'm going to be there shortly, and my heart rate goes up. You know, the blue sign, the Puma Punku sign, right? When you walk through the gates, dude, my heart's just like, blah, 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 blah. I love it, man. I love it. Hugh, where can everybody follow everything and all of your work?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they can just search for me, Hugh Newman, or Megalithomania.co.uk is the kind of website where we have everything. But we're all over social media as Hugh Newman and Megalithomania. I just want to mention, if people are around, we are doing the Cosmic Summit. I'm speaking at the Cosmic Summit about what we talked about today a lot. Some great speakers there, you know, many of them. That's in Greensboro over the summer solstice, 20th to the 23rd. Also at the Gaia-Sphere thing in August, I think 9th, 10th in Colorado, with a bunch of great people. David Hatch-Childress, can't wait to see him again. And we're getting the team, the SAR team from Egypt over to England on November the 1st. We're doing our Origins conference. So I like mentioning these conferences because they're, as you know, they're great places to kind of actually meet people and discuss ideas and everything else. So I want to always promoting conferences. I think it's a big deal. But yeah, they can check out all my stuff on, you know, if they just search for me. Obviously, we do trips out to these places like you're doing with Brian. We do tours to lots of places. We find that very important because often our guests have better eyesight than us or better intuition than us, and they discover things while we're there, which is very handy. So that's always good fun. And yeah, I just want to give a shout out and say hello to Brian from me. I haven't seen him for ages. So have a great time in Peru. That sounds like
he is the absolute best, and so are you. And say hello to JJ for me. I just did something with JJ, and I sat and listened to her presentation. Well, you know what? We're at the end of the show. I can't remember, but it was a few months ago, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Give my best to JJ, and I'll see you. I'll see you out at Gaia. I'll be there for that. And it'll be good to see you again, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Great talking to you.
Hugh Newman, everybody. Thank you so much, Hugh. And we do have Hugh's links below. Now you can go back to bed. Or no, go walk through Stonehenge and drink your tea. I'll talk to you. Thank you, Hugh. You're the absolute best, my friend. And Hugh's links are below. And yeah, and so Cosmic Summit. And of course, out at Gaia too, as well. And everything is on our website and over on Hugh's site. And which takes me to the question that I have at the end of every show. What am I doing tomorrow night? Does anybody know what I'm doing tomorrow night? Tomorrow night is, Trey Hudson is here. That's right. We're going to be talking about the meadow and the high strangeness that is going on out there. So until tomorrow night, again, thank you, Hugh. Perfect show. And I will see everybody tomorrow. But for now, all I've got is Göbekli Tepe. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Göbekli Tepe.